We have crossed this land more times than my sore feet would care to remember, but we have been the needle that stitched this country back together, bringing peace where we could and pushing back malevolent forces at every opportunity. Now we must do so for the entire nation, to end the blight before it consumes any more of our fair land, and before it stretches beyond our borders to threaten everyone, everywhere. Save Ferelden, save the world. In Redcliffe, our forces gather to prepare to take the fight to the Darkspawn. Finally, we'll be the ones going on the offensive instead of having to resist their onslaught.
Andraste's mercy that you got here when you did. I thought for sure these monsters were going to get me.
Oh, bloody hell. This was my narrative moment, damn it. I'm going down there to give them a piece of my mind. The village is indeed crawling with Darkspawn, and still more trying to break into the castle itself, but we clear them out. Not really optimistic right now. We just had to rescue our own army. Well, things could have been worse. Jowan could have been here and accidentally set my troops on fire. Fortunately, we are victorious and everyone inside is all right, and Riordan has arrived with news about the Darkspawn. That news is not the fortunate part, I'm afraid. The Darkspawn are on their way to Denerim, which is pretty damn far away from here, but it's quickly agreed that we will begin a forced march to the capital, along with all of our allies.
Then if you and Loghain could meet me before you retire, we have Grey Warden business to discuss.
Am I getting my promotion finally? Because I think I put in the man hours for it. Just so long as this is good news.
You're new to the Grey Wardens, and you may not have been told how an archdemon is slain.
Oh. Well, knowing how to kill one is good news.
The archdemon may be slain, as any other Darkspawn.
Good news.
But should any other than a Grey Warden do the slaying, it will not be enough. The essence of the beast will pass through the taint to the nearest Darkspawn and will be reborn anew in that body. The dragon is thus all but immortal.
That's not really good news.
But if the archdemon is slain by a Grey Warden, its essence travels into the Grey Warden instead. A Darkspawn is an empty, soulless vessel, but a Grey Warden is not. The essence of the archdemon is destroyed, and so is the Grey Warden.
That's terrible news!
In Blight's past, when the time came, the eldest of the Grey Wardens would decide which amongst them would take that final blow. If possible, the final blow should be mine to make.
That's good news!
But if I fail, the deed falls on you.
That's the worst news ever! And keep in mind that I was told I had to drink the blood of a Darkspawn and that it might kill me. So, that's why we needed to increase our ranks. The more Grey Wardens, the more chances we have for one to survive and perform the killing blow.
Then this will be dealt with soon. One way or the other.
Well, one thing is certain. If Riordan does fall, that blow will fall to me. I supported your joining because, beyond the Blight, there is a very long road. The restoration of our order, caused because of a single moment when you did the wrong thing, Loghain. And I want you to spend the rest of your life making that right. You have experience with turning rabble into armies, and your daughter is queen of the land. I've no doubt that you can make this happen, that eventually you can make us strong again. But it will be a struggle as great as your campaign against Orlais, and far more thankless. That final blow will not be your punishment. That's too good for you. You don't get a hero's death. You get a lifetime of penance. I don't want to die. I don't want to die.
Do not be alarmed. It is only I. I did not come here to speak of sentimental things. I came here to speak with you. Beauty and love are fleeting and have no meaning. Survival has meaning. Power has meaning. Without those lessons, I would not be here today, as difficult as they might have been.
Morgan is the Bastila of Dragon Age, the romantic interest for the male PC and possessing of special powers. While not possessing a code like the Jedi, Morgan's personal code is shaped by the teachings of Flemeth, who worked to make her hard and wily. So that, like Bastila, Morgan believes that love is a mistake, though for precisely the opposite reason. Bastila feared love leading to an uncontrollable passion. Morgan believes in passion and not true love.
What you call love is nothing more than a wishful fancy.
Oh, you don't fool me. Deep down inside, you must be glad of it.
Let me tell you one thing, and let us speak of it no more. Love is a weakness. Love is a cancer that grows inside and makes one do foolish things. Love is death. The love you dream of is something that would be more important to one than anything, even life. I know no such love.
And Morgan is rather lacking in subtlety on that subject.
'Tis cold in my tent, all alone. So you shall come to my tent? But whatever shall we do in that tiny little space together while we wait for it to warm?
The irony of this is that the story she tells of Flemeth's power is that she took a husband, a bard. But when they were very poor, Flemeth suggested that her husband accept a deal from a nobleman that for great treasure she would become wed to him instead. But rather than keeping his end of the bargain, he killed the bard. And, enraged at the death of her love, Flemeth sought the power of demons in the wild. As Morgan has lived her entire life in the wilds, she has only tales of her mother and her own brief encounters with civilization. Killing Templars was one, naturally. When they'd come into the wild searching for them, Morgan would actually help lure them into traps. When she took brief trips to towns, she would use her knowledge of people to make up for her lack of knowledge of social graces, like the time one man accused her of being a witch, so she manipulated the other men into believing that he was some crazed man trying to put a spell on her. In one tale, she snatched a beautiful golden mirror from a wealthy caravan, so Flemeth smashed it on the ground for taking a risk for nothing more than a pretty bauble. This was part of Morgan's training, that she had to always be cunning, and taking a foolish risk for something just because she wanted to have that beautiful thing, that was weakness. This is a metaphor. The mirror is love. It's a beautiful thing that Morgan has been convinced comes with too great of a risk to be worth acquiring. So she herself has been trained to smash it every time. Morgan sometimes lashes out for that very reason.
I think not. Because something must be amiss with me in order to refuse your charms. You'll have to forgive me if I do not leap at your command like a trained warhound. I do not wish to discuss it. Leave me be.
Fine, I'll just crawl into someone else's bed, and I won't regret a moment of it. I so fucking regret that. There's an opportunity later to give Morgan a very specific gift.
What have you there? A mirror? It is just the same as the mirror which Flemeth smashed on the ground so long ago. It is incredible that you found one so like it. I am uncertain what to say. You must wish something in return, certainly. You say that as if I should be accustomed to such a thing. I have never received a gift, not one which did not come at a price. I suppose I should say thank you for the gift. 'Tis most thoughtful, truly.
Morgan's acceptance in this way is a step in changing her mind on the subject of love, though she fights, not because of her training, but because of the inevitability of her departure. She must leave after the archdemon is defeated, and she insists that I not follow her. Because of that, she is torn in her beliefs. She knows that love is a weakness because it makes her want to stay when she can't. But it is a beautiful thing that she just can't stop admiring. During the early days in the tower, Irving had some books brought to his quarters for safekeeping. Blood magic works mostly. But when we travel through the infested tower, we find among them Flemeth's Black Grimoire, which reveals that she is so old because she raises a daughter and when the time is right, seizes control of her body. Morgan knows her time will likely be soon, so she asks Tim to go do the only thing that can save her.
Flemeth needs to die. I will not sit about like an empty sack waiting to be filled.
That's what she said. I'll go kill Flemeth now. She's expecting us, of course, and suggests that rather than killing her, we take her grimoire. Morgan asks that we bring that back with us so that she can learn of Flemeth's power, since we're there killing her mom and all of that. Tim naturally refuses, as uncomfortable it is to think of killing an unarmed old woman.
She will earn what she takes. I'd have it no other way.
That makes it easier, thank you. Vanquishing a dragon who is also a witch is not the most common way to say I love you, but there it is. And Morgan appreciates what Tim has done for her. She will still have to depart in the end. That cannot change. The love of two people doesn't amount to a hill of beans compared to a scripted event. But Morgan has been an invaluable aid in this quest, and will make all the difference in this coming battle.
Allow me to say only one thing before we go. I was foolish. This could have been so much easier, yet I cannot regret what was between us. I will always remember you, my love. Now, let us see this finally done. The archdemon awaits. I have a plan, you see. A way out. The loop in your hole. I know what happens when the archdemon dies. I know a Grey Warden must be sacrificed, and that sacrifice could be you. I have come to tell you that this does not need to be.
What makes you what makes you think that I'm not ready to die to stop this blight, huh? Morgan's plan is that if a child is conceived by a Grey Warden the night before and certain rites are performed, that instead of transferring to me, the dead archdemon will transfer its soul into the unborn child, and so she will give birth to a child with the soul of an old god. Huh. So, just so I'm clear, the choice is either death or have wild sex with you. Alright, is this like that sacred shark thing where the obvious right answer has a freak chance of being disastrously wrong? I don't want to do that again. Well, hell, that's quite a way to be wrong. Let's try this. Besides, this sounds exactly like the setup to a sequel, and I don't want to get in the way of that sequel. Otherwise, I'll have to deal with that snooty Fenris.
Come, my love. Put the thoughts of the ritual aside and let us make this last night together one to remember.
And so we make love, and it's a beautiful thing. I know this is an unpopular sentiment, I'm old-fashioned, but I believe that sex should be between one woman and one semi-translucent man covered in pixie dust and set on fire, as God intended! What follows has never made a game feel more epic. No, not the dirty, dirty sex. I mean the march off to battle. You see the culmination of all of the crap that you have had to wade through to bring these people together, resulting in this impressive display of unity.
We have gathered all the forces we can. The Darkspawn Horde is sure to reach the capital before us. And so we must race to Denerim as quickly as we can. The lives of many thousands hang in the balance. We must not forsake them. You have gathered an army to replace the one lost at Ostagar, Grey Warden. Let us pray that it will be enough.
This is one of the ways that games can utilize a dimension to storytelling that is unique to them, their interactive nature. That scene is an epic worthy of any film, but as a game, it takes on a whole new level because you made this possible. You are the hero who accomplished this feat, not someone living vicariously through them. You were the one whose choices led to this moment, after all. It allows you to really have a sense that you have built something, that you made a difference. Those mages are there because of your struggle to save them from Templar overreaction. Those elves are there because you went out of your way to end the werewolf curse the right way and not the easy way. Those dwarven warriors are there because you chose not to have them turned into golems. Your actions, your choices, they're on display in Cecil B. DeMille Panorama. And that's something that only video game storytelling can allow. We make holes in teeth. We make holes in teeth. It's a battle royale as we arrive to assault the Darkspawn at the gates. Not just a cutscene, your entire crew gets involved, charging into the fray to fight instead of waiting on the ship for you to save the day. We quickly secure the gates, but even with our army, we're outnumbered 3-1. The only hope we're going to have is to take out the Archdemon. That will leave the Darkspawn too disorganized to mount any kind of effective attack. I'll be splitting my party into 2 groups. Loghain, Morgan, and Shale will join me in charging into the city. The rest will defend this zone to prevent Darkspawn reinforcements from arriving, and protecting the wounded from those that might pour out of the city. I've placed Sten in command. He's an experienced leader of soldiers. He's going to know what to do if there's any problems. And plus, the lives that he'll save this day will help him atone for those that he took a year ago. After we say our goodbyes, in case we don't survive this, it's into the city for that long run for the fort. It's going to be a good place to draw on the Archdemon to fight on the ground rather than up in the air blowing flame at us. We battle our way into the city, through the marketplace, then into the alienage. Poor elves, this just isn't your era. While outside, Sten is leading our defenders against a horde of Darkspawn that have broken off to attack our forces here. Riordan is naturally doing the most badass thing that he can, leaping onto the Archdemon and stabbing at it repeatedly. In its efforts to shake him loose, which it finally does, its wing is damaged so that its power of flight is limited, and it's left way the hell up there, on another tower. That's just my life story, isn't it? We find our way towards it, but the issue of that final blow comes up now that Riordan is dead.
One life. After all this trouble, it seems like such a small thing to give up to see this land safe, doesn't it? You've been kinder to me than I've deserved, so I'm going to tell you plainly that you should reconsider. There is, however, no use worrying about what may be. We'll have to wait and see what comes.
Well, for all we know, I'm going to get incinerated by the Archdemon, and you'll have to do it anyway. That'll give you something to look forward to, Loghain. Inside, there's still more Darkspawn. The whole way, actually. Just layers after layers of them. Finally, though, we find someone who is at the very heart of it all, and not just survived, but just annihilated them all. And of course, there's only one person who could do that.
Enchantment? Enchantment!
I won't look a gift horse in the mouth. But his presence does address that issue I mentioned with Knights of the Old Republic, that after a certain point, money and a lot of the goods that you get are meaningless because you can't trade them in for anything else anywhere. So it's just stats that you're carrying. With him being here, you can get enchantments made, and you can buy, sell, trade with Bodan's goods before you have to go confront the Archdemon. Of course, it naturally leaves a question that will demand answering at some point. Perhaps it'll be on Tuesday. But for now, we have more pressing issues than an odd boy who's pulverizing Darkspawn when no one's looking. Well, what are you waiting for, Loghain? Go slay it! It is naturally an epic fight, and we summon groups of dwarves, elves, and mages to join in at points throughout. Another way this battle feels even more epic. With Morgan and Shale knocked out as the battle goes on, only Loghain and myself are left to see this through to the end. Wow, is this Ferelden or is this Texas? Because that is a hell of a mechanical bull. Never thought I'd see a mage pull that. And that's what we do with a doctorate in occult sciences, bitch! Duncan shows up to provide the narration for the post-climax to-do, which is nice. It would suck if the last thing you remembered of him was being attacked by him in the Sloth Demon's lair. Honora is officially made queen and offers Tim a boon for his actions. And while there's a lot that he'd love, money, titles, lands, money, this is a rare opportunity for something that very few ever get a chance to ask.
Let it be known that Ferelden's mages have earned the right to watch over themselves. The tower shall be restored and returned to the Circle.
That statue of me, Irving, something in metal. Marble is just so passé. With this, there's now a chance to talk to your companions and others that you've met along the way before a huge epilogue tells of the consequences of many of the decisions you've made. More and more and more. Man, if that's how they end episode 1 of a story, just imagine how they'd end a game that was the final part of a trilogy. I mean, that would have to be a truly epic ending, wouldn't it? Tim would go on to the story of Awakening and further the cause of the Grey Wardens, but Dragon Age 2 would follow and reveal something about him.
So, did you...
Gone. Just like the Warden.
But where? For that, we returned to the swamps in the House of Flemeth, just me and my faithful friend, to begin the search for clues of what happened to Morgan. She said not to follow, but I'm not terribly good at doing what I'm told. With a Dalish elf I find here and a circle mage with skill in linguistics, we question someone who might have some insight. The statue from amongst the magical relics in the tower that we met when Jowan and I were breaking in for his phylactery.
Scry, the broken glass, dagger sharp, will be your key.
Gotta admit, this was a Chekhov's gun I thought had jammed, but they squeaked it in right before the end. Sorting through this eventually leads us to another cult of dragon worshippers, and finally, having crossed reused map after reused map after reused map, we find Morgan before an Eluvian portal.
And you once argued with me that love is not weakness.
Don't do this to me, not now. My helmet and weapons were DLC and they didn't import properly. I've been through enough here, okay? How's our child?
He is safe and beyond your reach. All you need to know is that the child is an innocent. He knows nothing of the destiny that lies before him.
Yeah, we've made a beautiful sequel together, you and I can tell. Stay with me and we can make this a franchise.
'Tis Flemeth you should beware of, not me. My mother has tricked her way past death and more. She is no more finished than I am. I thought I knew what Flemeth planned. I thought what she craved was immortality, and yet I was wrong. So very wrong. She is no blood mage, no abomination. She is not even truly human. The ritual was but a means to an end, a herald for what is to come.
Well, shit. Hope she doesn't hold a grudge. After some discussion about my sincerity, Morgan makes a choice.
Then come, my love. We will face the future together.
You bet. Oh, you're going to love this. I've been thinking about a freemium game for mobile. I am telling you, these days, that's where the money is. Dragon Age took 6 years to develop, and it shows in both good and bad ways. Bad because a lot of it didn't look up to the console generation that it was released upon. The characters were more real and more animated than Knights of the Old Republic, certainly, but it wasn't up to Mass Effect, which had already been out for some time. But the good of that 6 years is because it's shown in the depth of the work. There's a lot of lore to it, and the world feels very large. Your companions are all colorful and full of personality. Even Alistair, who just makes a fun whipping boy, but he isn't bad at all. This characterization works quite well, and they're very engaging and witty, with lots of stories to tell, like Leliana and some of her bard tales, or Zevran and his various assassination mishaps, and the way Loghain seems at first to be mad with power and full of lies, but on a replay can be seen as a misguided zealot who believes what he's saying even though his actions wind up making things worse. That's not an easy thing to write, especially with video games which have writing limitations that aren't present in other media. Dragon Age brings in true dilemmas which show the advantage of not going with a morality slide that a lot of games use. This is perhaps best shown with the Sacred Shark incident in Knights of the Old Republic, where this was handled disastrously, presented in such a way so that it's choose good or choose bad, not choose what you think is the right thing to do. Because as presented, it's kill shark and harm environment, or be one with nature and preserve life. and couched in positions that are not equal as far as their reasonableness goes. Because, I doubt the president would gleefully answer first thing in the morning, "Want to kill someone today, Mr. President?" "You bet I do." But the president might have to give such an order that day. It depends on context. Is the president bombing Havana? Is the president sending in a strike team to rescue hostages from pirates? Dragon Age treats those situations differently because it doesn't rely on a simplistic morality viewpoint, which I mention because even though that's really a gameplay element, it is liberating as far as story goes. Instead of having to deal with killing is bad, harming the environment is bad, destroying cultural treasures is bad, you have context so that it's, do I kill this man trying to set off a nuclear weapon? Do I shoot down this plane full of toxic waste over the ocean or over the city? Do I burn this priceless art because I'm freezing? With a black and white morality system, you couldn't have Harrowmont versus Balin as it was, an honorable man with bad ideas versus a dishonorable murderer with good ones. Who is the lesser of two evils there? You decide that. The game doesn't decide that for you. Now you might be saying, hey, sometimes when I do something, this terrible thing happens as a result. So the game is saying this was a bad thing because it's punishing me over that. Maybe. Or it may be a case of reminding you just what the stakes are here. You are the Grey Warden. You're the one making decisions that will affect the lives of everyone in the entire country. In a lot of those cases, your decisions are not small. And by seeing that your good intentions could lead to bad things, or your indifference or things done for your amusement can have horrific consequences, you take that much more seriously. You weigh the possibilities more, just like you really would if you were there, because you're aware of just how large the stakes are when someone as important as you does something. The most obvious result of the effects on your companions, and that's as it should be. Like in real life, you might do things differently because you know who is watching you and what they feel about things. Or you might decide, I don't care what other people think about me, I'm going to do what I believe is right, and you might wind up alienating them. The result of all of this is that you are now forcing the player to become invested in what they are doing. And the player is your audience. And as a storyteller, engaging your audience is always the way to develop a better story experience. The use of both Loghain and the Darkspawn as villains is a great way to extend the narrative without running into issues that undermine their threat. When it comes to Loghain, issues related to Haven, the elves, and the dwarves, with the exception of that brief run at the door, don't involve him in the slightest. As far as the Darkspawn go, sure you run into little pockets here and there, but it's the dwarves and the scene in the camp where the Darkspawn threat is truly brought home. Now, to explain that, because I know it didn't happen, the game bugged. There was a point where Shrieks should have attacked the camp, sent by the Archdemon to deal with the Grey Wardens. Somehow that didn't happen. Anyway, the point is this is all to happen in the middle period of the game. It establishes both these menaces that you are dealing with. Now, Loghain is the more visible of the two, and yet the Archdemon is the greater threat. Because Loghain and the Darkspawn are in opposition to each other, and to you, you avoid the Moriarty situation where everything is part of some master villain's plan who is so clever and so far-reaching, and yet you can thwart him dozens of times over without fail. And as adversaries, they couldn't be more different. Loghain is a misguided zealot unwittingly burning the village to save it. The Archdemon is a force of utter darkness. Loghain has plots. The Archdemon is direct. Loghain has agents doing his bidding. The Archdemon merely sends Darkspawn about to wreak havoc, and havoc for its own sake. What all this means is that Dragon Age Origins did a great job of fusing narrative with gameplay to be an effective interactive storytelling experience. While it could have used a few occasions to break up long stretches of combat a bit more, and in other scenes to avoid having to stop for far too long to thoroughly question an NPC before being able to get on with things, overall it shows a lot of things they've learned from the Knights of the Old Republic experience, building a stronger experience as a result, and setting the stage for a franchise that I'm interested in seeing continue.
This is pointless. We should simply go in fighting. And now I'm talking to an animal. I've been in this country too long.